Hi everyone, welcome to my first vlog. I've actually been wanting to do videos like this for a while, just never really had the motivation or the means to do so, but now I've got a little bit of all of it, and I'm kind of uncomfortable doing it. First time, I normally like to just stay behind a drum kit and play drums. I'm much better at doing that than I am at talking, but this will be a fun way for all of us to kind of hang out, talk, go over some general things. If you enjoy this kind of video, definitely leave a comment and let me know. If you're watching this on Instagram or Twitter or even TikTok, leave a comment there. Let me know if you like it or not. I'll definitely do more if that's what you guys want to see. So I've been getting a lot of questions about the beard being gone and this gnarly mustache I've got instead. Well, gnarly is subjective. I think it's kind of gnarly. It was a little bit more gnarly when I first shaved the beard, but I cleaned it up a little bit just to keep a good old Christian dad mustache going here. So what I'm doing, this is part of a fundraiser and an awareness campaign for the Movember Foundation. It's where you go the whole month of November rocking nothing but the mustache, or I guess maybe a little bit of accessory facial hair right here. I just think it completes the look. But anyways, you go with a mustache for the whole month of November. It raises awareness for the campaign. The Movember Foundation themselves help raise funds for various men's health issues, everything from testicular cancer, prostate cancer, and then the one that's been particularly important to me as of late is men's mental health and suicide prevention. These are all issues that are important to me as a man. I recognize that most men have an issue confronting their masculinity, sometimes deeply toxic masculinity. I know it was a problem that I had myself for a long time, and especially with something like mental health that, in fact, most men I know struggle with actively or have struggled with at some point in their lives. I think it's awesome to have an opportunity to do something as simple, as fun, and honestly as silly as rocking a goofy mustache for the whole month and helping raise awareness for these issues. And then more specifically, I am helping raise funds for the Movember Foundation. If you are interested in donating, I have my own campaign page. The link is going to be down in the description below. Check that out if you would like. So anyways, let's address the elephant in the room. This gnarly scar. That's what this whole video is about. I wanted to get this video recorded before my whiskers got too long. I'm looking at myself in the computer to make sure you can see it okay, and yeah, it's coming through pretty well. So the scar basically starts right up here at the top of my Adam's apple, and it goes all the way across the entirety of my neck, all the way back to this muscle right here. What happened was I had a cyst in my mouth, more specifically in my jaw. In fact, right in this area, I can feel where the cyst was, and I'll explain why. So I'm gonna pull up some pictures and share some memories for me from the time of the surgery and afterward as I talk about the various issues that I experienced in my recovery, as well as go into detail about the surgery itself. Fair warning, there isn't extreme gore, but there is a little bit of blood you're gonna see. I've got bandages on my face and in my mouth. You're gonna see a little bit of blood there. There's no graphic video. Unfortunately, I actually asked if we could find a way to record them doing the surgery and removing the cyst, and they just told me no. So there's no video, nothing like that, but a couple of pictures with a little bit of blood. If you don't like blood, I'm gonna put up a little stamp in the video so let you know when it's coming, so you can just skip right ahead through that. So let's talk about the cyst. This was a really bizarre thing, and as it turns out, my orthodontist explained to me, it was like a 1 in 1,000 chance of developing one like this, and then the odds of it being as aggressive in its growth as it was were even lower than that. It is super rare thing. He had only actually done this specific surgery once prior in his entire career. That's just some context to explain how rare this was. Really weird. So right in here, I'm gonna pull my hair back. Right in here, I had a cyst. And it's not uncommon to develop a cyst really anywhere on your body or even in the mouth. The problem was that not only did this cyst go unaddressed for too long, it was actually, they described it, I think the word was hyper aggressive, which sounds like a comic book term, but that's how they explained it. And it grew at an incredibly fast rate. And the problem with this type of a cyst is everywhere that it grew, it would eat away at whatever was in its way. And the problem for me was that with it being located right on my jaw, it was eating away at my teeth and my actual jaw bone. This was in 2016. I was working for an insurance company in a call center, so on the phone all day dealing with people. Absolutely hated it, for the record. And I started developing this weird jaw pain right here. And then eventually this jaw pain got worse and worse to the point where, like, if I bit too hard on a piece of food, if what I was eating was too hard or too chewy, I would actually experience jolts of pain in my face. Well, I just so happened to have a dentist appointment there pretty soon after, and they ended up running a scan. It was a general checkup. They do x-rays on me every year or so. When I was a kid, I didn't take very good care of my teeth, so I've had to have a lot of fillings. I've had a lot of cavities, and they do x-rays on me pretty normally just to make sure that the work that's been done prior still looks good. And so they did the x-ray, and my dentist calls me back and he says, "Samuel, you need to come look at this." And I'm like, okay. Mind you, I've been going to this dentist basically my entire life. So over 20 years at this point, he's never addressed me like that. He's never asked me to get out of my seat to come look at anything. So I was a little bit shocked. I'm like, well, what the heck? What's this about? So we go back to where he's looking at the scans and he says, "Do you see anything out of place here?" And immediately I did. I'm like, yeah, the hell is that? And he pulled up the picture. I'm actually going to try and find the picture and pull it up because I do have an original copy of that. And I don't know if I've got it or not, but if I do, hopefully you're looking at that right now. If you're not, just imagine a dental x-ray, and right in here, looking at my face, there's a giant black blob. And it's covering one of my teeth, and it's covering pretty much all of my jawbone. And so I look at that and I say, well, what is this? And he says, "I have no idea. But you need to get it tested. You need to go get checked out to make sure it's not cancer." And eventually I made the steps to reach out to an orthodontist, as the person that my dentist recommended. And I went to see him. They did some scans and they determined that it was almost definitely not cancer. So prior to the surgery, they already knew with 99% certainty it wasn't cancer, that it was in fact a cyst, and it was just a highly aggressive one. And like I said previously, my orthodontist had actually dealt with something like this before, so he knew what he was looking for. Come to think of it, I keep calling him an orthodontist. I don't know if that's the right word. He was my oral surgeon, but orthodontist, that's like braces. I don't think that's the same thing. My surgeon looked at it and he's like, "Nah, it's almost definitely not cancer, but it is very, very serious, and I'll explain why." So he explained why. The problem was that it had already eaten away at one of my teeth, and it had probably eaten away at a second one. So right off the bat, that was 2 teeth I was gonna lose, period, no matter what. But the big problem was that it had eaten away at my jawbone to the point where it was so thin, my surgeon actually put me on a very, very specific and strict warning to resist physical activity that can make impact with my face. So I play basketball, as some of you may or may not know. If I were to take a basketball to the face, like if someone were to just pass me the ball and I not be looking and I miss it, or if someone smacked the ball and it hit me in the face, he said 100% chance that my jawbone would shatter in half. Not just a little fracture, but it would straight up crack in half and be separated inside my face. So that's terrifying. So they ended up scheduling a surgery. And fast forward to surgery time, they had to go in. And first of all, part of the teeth that were damaged were my 3rd molar and my 2nd molar. And they ended up taking out all my wisdom teeth because they thought that the wisdom teeth making contact, because they were impacted, they thought my wisdom teeth making contact with the 2nd molar might have been what created this cyst to begin with. And because I'd already had it once, it made me like an at-risk patient, I think is the term they used, and they didn't want it to happen again. But the problem was that not only did they have to take the wisdom tooth back here, but they knew for a fact that my 2nd molar, which would be, for people who don't have your wisdom teeth, the tooth furthest back, they already knew that that was a goner. The roots were corroded and eaten out by the cyst, and even coming up, my jaw was actually inflamed a little bit, and it just looked like my gum was coming up, but it was actually the cyst inflamed and pushing up towards the top of the tooth. Everything underneath my gums had been completely eaten away by the cyst. They knew that my jawbone was already extremely thin. So not only did they have to remove the cyst and remove the problem teeth, but they had to do some sort of construction to basically stop my jaw from breaking. And what they had to do was put in a metal plate. I don't remember what kind of metal it is. I assume it was probably steel. I don't know. Honestly, I'm just blowing smoke. But they had to put in a steel plate all across my jaw. And the scar is a very good indicator of where that is because they couldn't do that from within my mouth. Outside of doing the metal plate, everything else they did was inside of here. They took out my wisdom teeth from within my mouth. They were even able to take out the cyst from within my mouth. And then to make sure that the cyst never came back, they had to ensure that all the remnants of it were gone. So they had to graft the bone, graft my jawbone, basically go in there and carve out just a thin layer of it to make sure that there were no little pieces of that cyst left over once they took it out of my mouth. The problem with that is they explained to me very, very high risk because they already told me if I got hit in the face by anything, my jaw would break. So they're in there drilling and scraping and doing all these horrible things. It makes me cringe just thinking about them do that in my mouth. They're in there doing all of that. They told me that I would almost definitely come out of that surgery with a broken jaw. And that sucked, but had to do what I had to do. So that's what they did inside of my mouth to get rid of the cyst. But going back to this metal plate, you can probably guess why I have the scar now. They had to cut into my face from outside on my neck. And that is so brutal and graphic to think about. And I mean, the scar really tells the story. All the way from right here at the top of my Adam's apple, all the way back to the very end of my jaw, right where this neck muscle comes in, it's right at the end of my jaw. That's where the metal plate is. So inside my face, I've got a metal plate right here. Hello, 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 hello. Future Samuel checking in. So I realized I was going through and editing the video and I never actually stopped to take a moment to explain the injury so that I could show the pictures. So I'm going to do that right now. If you don't want to see the images, feel free to skip ahead. I'm going to mark the timestamp at which you need to skip ahead so you can skip over these images. They're not super graphic. They're not super bloody. They're just kind of uncomfortable for some people who don't really like that stuff. So fair warning, I'm going to put the timestamp down there right now. Skip to that point right now if you don't want to see them. Let's check them out. So as I've explained in this video, they had to cut through the outside of my neck all the way down to my jawbone, and that left a massive wound with a pretty massive healing time that was tied to it. As I either already have mentioned or will mention here shortly in the video, there was nerve damage as well. I had slurred speech and a bum lip. For about 6 months, it was really bad. After that, it was well over a year before my lip fully bounced back and my speech was basically at 100% again. As far as the bruising and general pain goes, I had bruising for about 3 weeks. After 2 weeks, I was cleared to go back to work, which I had to do because I had run out of vacation time and wasn't getting paid for my time off. So 3 cheers for that. So I had to go back to work and had some bruising still. It was fairly mild at that point. The bruising started all the way up by my jaw and cheek and actually extended well down below my neck into my chest, below my shoulders and collarbone. At the point when I started back at work, that's where most of the bruising was left, was down below my collarbone. So you couldn't really see it while I was working, but man, my face and neck stayed puffed up and swollen for a long time after that. I experienced general tenderness and pain for about 2 months. After that, the only real pain that I felt was when biting down on that end of my mouth because of the injury to my jaw that it had sustained during surgery and the amount of bone that was lost due to the cyst and the grafting that they had to do. And then just some general discomfort as my body adjusted to having a piece of metal in there. Most of that had to do with the swelling, which stayed there for several months, but eventually that went down and I got back to looking fairly normal. Well, aside from the bum lip, that is. And the unfortunate thing is the cyst had eaten away at so much of my jaw, it was actually making contact with a nerve. And it had stretched the nerve, it had damaged the nerve. They told me that I may never actually bounce back once they take that out. Because in the current state it was in, with the cyst putting pressure on it, it wasn't actually creating any issues for me at the time other than pain and discomfort. But they told me once the cyst was out and there was no longer pressure on that nerve, it was basically like having a guitar string that you'd push down and stretched. It'll still make a sound while it's pushed down and stretched, but once you stretch it so far and you let go, it loses the elasticity and it becomes useless. They told me that because of that I would likely have an issue with my lips. My bottom lip would be extremely problematic, and my cheek, my chin, all the muscle structure, basically from my cheekbone down to my Adam's apple, was going to be messed up because of this nerve. And it turns out that was accurate. I had a really bad droop on my lip, and my speech was slurred for the better part of 6 months after the surgery. I remember playing shows with my band, and I was so insecure because I smile all the time. You guys know, you watch my videos, you see me messing around, goofing off. I tell jokes on Twitter all the time. We just like to have fun, and I'm a happy guy. And when I'm playing music, I'm at my happiest. So when I'm playing shows with my band, I'm always smiling. And I was so insecure because, frankly, half my face went up and the other half didn't because of this nerve damage. And I hated the way that it looked, and I didn't know if it was ever going to come back. But as you can tell now, it's back pretty good. See, I can smile. I've still got a little bit of a droop right in this corner of my lip, but it's not bad. And for people who don't know that I have that problem, nobody notices it. In fact, even right now while I'm talking, you might see it a little bit now that you know that it's there, but prior to me just mentioning it, odds are you didn't notice it either. So the nerve bounced back pretty well on my lip. But if we want to go back to talking about the scar, they had to cut through my skin and all this muscle down to my bone and peel it open. They opened up my face like a banana and screwed in this metal plate. And then they pushed all that muscle, all that tissue, all that skin back into place, sewed it shut. And that was on top of the nerve damage that they told me I was going to have. And so they said that I would have a scar for my entire life. The scar's never going to go away. They said even in the best spots, I'm always going to have a scar. And that the muscle and the tissue would probably not bounce back, same as they anticipated with the nerve damage on my lip. Fortunately, the lip's pretty good, but this muscle right here, it's not come back. And I've come to terms with the fact that it probably never will. And unfortunately, it's become a huge insecurity for me, which is part of why I wanted to make this video. And I know we just talked about, toxic masculinity, men's mental health. And that's why I thought that this was as good of a time as ever to make this video, because it's something that actually makes me extremely uncomfortable. I look at myself in the computer while I'm talking to try and make sure that it's not looking as bad as I feel like it looks. And people tell me all the time, it's not as bad as you think, but it's hard going from looking one way. And I was so young. How old was I? I was 23 at the time when I had the surgery done. I was young, and it's crazy to look back and see that I used to have a jawline. Everybody likes a nice, firm, clean jawline. On this side of my face, it's still pretty good, but the tension on my skin and my muscles on this side is still affected by this right here doing nothing. So that's kind of what happened there, and the muscle never bounced back. It never will. You can see as I talk like this. It's basically just loose skin and loose tissue. There's no muscle activity there. Everything that you see is a result of the muscle and the skin and the tissue being pulled from elsewhere on my face. My cheeks, my jaw going up and down, my neck as I turn side to side, look up and down. It's something that I don't like. I don't feel good about it. But part of doing this video is me conquering my fear and my insecurity about it. So if you're still watching at this point, now you know deep dark secret of Samuel. He doesn't feel good about that thing on his neck. And honestly, I know that my beard is a signature part of my look. I mean, Jesus, I put it in my logo. And that's part of why I carry a beard, and such a thick and long beard at that, because it helps conceal this piece of me that I'm not comfortable with. And so I guess if there's anything to take away from that, I encourage all of you, if there's something that you don't feel good about on yourself, something you're uncomfortable with, that you feel insecure about, please understand it's never as bad as you think it is. And I always try and spread positivity with everybody. And I'm going to do that again right here. Everybody's got things that make them special. I've got mine. I'm fortunate in the fact that I feel like I have found mine. if you haven't found yours yet, and all you do is focus on the things that you don't like about yourself and the negative things about you, you don't like the way you look, you don't like the way you talk, the way you sing, the way you play an instrument, the way you draw, stop focusing on the negatives and focus on what makes you special. Everybody's got something. If you haven't found yours yet, you will. And I promise it'll help you feel better about the things that you don't like. And that's what I've got with my face. I don't like it, but I don't focus on it. And honestly, after making this video and kind of opening up about my insecurity, I'm probably gonna go hop on my drum set and get my emotions out, because drumming is something that makes me special, and it's something that's special to me. And so I cope with that. And honestly, everyone that's in this community, I know I said it 100 times before, but all the support from everybody who comments on the videos, likes, shares, says nice things on the videos, and even in DMs on Twitter and Instagram. I get a lot of DMs from people frequently just saying that they like the stuff. Nothing too personal, nothing too close, but all that stuff means a lot to me. And so when it comes to addressing my insecurities, and particularly something on my face that I haven't addressed much in the past, I grow a beard so I can hide it, so I don't have to address it. You guys help me find strength. I hope that you find strength in yourselves. I hope you find strength in one another. That's all I'm going to say about this video. It's been fun talking with you guys in a form like this. And again, if you like the video, like the video. Share it with your friends. If you have anyone else who's been through similar surgeries like this, let me know about it. Leave a comment. This is one of my favorite things to talk about with my friends. I've not really talked about it with you guys yet, but now we can. Drop a comment. Let me know if you like videos like this vlog type of thing. I've had a lot of people asking for stuff like this, and I guess here we are. Maybe we'll do more if you enjoy it, if the video does well, if it's fun, if you guys like it. I'll definitely do more, and maybe even give me some ideas on stuff that you want to see going forward. Yeah, that's all I've got for now. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.